Stunning reporting tonight from Sarah Carter that we are confirming with our sources. Classified DOJ documents that members of Congress are now reviewing. It shows widespread and extensive FISA abuses against the Trump campaign, and we have names. Now, here's how it all went down. At the last minute, the House, they finally got, literally within an hour, their subpoena request approved by the DOJ. Members of Congress were able to get their hands on all these classified documents. Now, at the last minute, Rod Rosenstein tried to stop it by going into Paul Ryan's office. Paul Ryan would have none of it. Now, it is more disturbing than we ever thought. And at this hour, our sources are telling us that the abusive power is far bigger than Watergate. Remember, Watergate was a third-rate break-in. What we're talking about tonight is the systematic abuse of power, the weaponizing of those powerful tools of intelligence, and the shredding of our Fourth Amendment constitutional rights that protect all of us against unlawful search and seizure. What we're talking about tonight is an abuse of the powerful tools of intelligence that we use to spy on people, except those tools were used against an opposition candidate and a president-elect and his entire team. And it was done not only under false pretenses, but with the help of Hillary Clinton. She bought and paid for the dossier that they filled with Russian lies, propaganda, salacious details that were never true. Now, here are the people that we're going to learn an awful lot about in the next couple of weeks. Pay very close attention. They are the highest ranks of the Department of Justice in your FBI. Remember Strzok? He wrote his mistress, Paige, I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Around the exact same time that Strzok and Page are talking about their insurance policy, well, the Obama administration officials are going to the FISA court to get a warrant on Carter Page. Stay with me. They're using Carter Page as a pretext to really spy on the Trump campaign. And now it is transparent to all of us what Strzok was saying to Page when they spoke about the insurance policy with Andy, we believe Andrew McCabe, in that text message, needing that insurance policy. Now, everyone seems to forget Lisa Page is a key legal counselor for McCabe. See how it all ties together? And listen, when they're sending the text messages about an insurance policy, they're also going to the FISA court. Now, sources are telling us tonight that the first time they tried to get the FISA warrant against Carter Page was in the summer. It was denied. Then the second time they tried to get it in the early fall, they used the phony Clinton bought and paid for dossier. And this time they were successful for one reason. The fake news dossier put the request over the top. Now that you're up to speed on that part, we have a lot of questions for key people involved. Now, we need to know what all of these top Obama administration officials knew and when they found out, and exactly how they were involved in spying on an opposition campaign and an incoming president. What did Hillary Clinton know? Her campaign know? The DNC that she controlled know? We know they paid Fusion GPS, what, $12 billion plus to put this phony dossier together. Did she know this was happening, and when did she know it? What did President Obama know? Was he briefed about the dossier before the election? We believe he was. To sum it all up, Clinton fixed the primary, remember, against Bernie Sanders. Then Peter Strzok and James Comey, well, they fixed the investigation into her emails by exonerating her before even investigating that particular case. That allowed Clinton to stay in the race. And at the same time, Strzok, his mistress, Lisa Page, Deputy FBI Director McCabe, seemed to be on a mission, an insurance policy mission, to destroy Trump. The insurance policy is in case, God forbid, he wins. We don't think it's going to happen. And it's clear they were using the powerful tools of intelligence and a FISA warrant to have a backup plan in case Hillary lost.
What I read today in that classified briefing room is as bad as I thought it was, and every single American citizen should have the ability to see that information to know exactly what our FBI was up to.
Will it shock the conscience of the American people?
Sean, it shocked me. I compared it to, I remember the day I walked in 2 years ago on the Benghazi committee, walked in and saw the immunity agreements that were given to people in the Clinton investigation. I didn't know who they'd given them to. I opened up that folder and I looked down when the Justice Department official slid that folder over to me on that table and looked down and see they gave Cheryl Mills immunity during the Clinton investigation, Clinton's chief of staff, her lawyer. Today, when I read the material, I had that same shock feeling. I was like, wait a minute, this actually happened from our Justice Department and this FBI. That's how serious this is. That's why we're calling on every bit of that information we got to see today to be made public for you to see, for journalists to see, most importantly, for the American people to see.
Matt Gaetz, you saw these materials today. You agreeing with Jim Jordan? Because it sounds like a few people decided they wanted to fix, not only they fixed it so Hillary wouldn't get in trouble on the email server scandal. We know felonies were committed. She fixed the primary, rigged the primary. It sounds like they're fixing and rigging here a general election.
Yeah, you are describing the very elements of a palace coup. And after Jim and Mark Meadows and many others of us reviewed the intelligence information today, it is abundantly clear that the entire Mueller investigation is a lie built on a foundation of corruption. And what is so important is that we get this information into the public square. You know, Sean, when you've been on this show each and every night making claims about the bias and the corruption and the deep state, people have accused you and your guests of being tinfoil hat folks, lone voices in the wilderness. This critical intelligence information will vindicate the claims that have been made by so many, and it is absolutely essential that we share it with all Americans. That's what we're fighting for in the Congress.
Is it a fair statement that what we've been, the onion we've been unpeeling, we've been over the target the whole time, Congressman Gaetz?
Well, Sean, we can't get into the specific information, but I can tell you I am as certain as ever that the claims we have been making are accurate claims, that there is intelligence information that backs it up, and that there has been a real attempt to undermine this president, and it has come from the scariest of places. Some of the very people we've been talking about will be exposed, and the key reason that all Americans need to see this memo is that it names names. It says who was involved with who, how different actors and characters we've heard about interacted with one another, and that is the type of information that we need all Americans to see immediately.
I think it's far worse than what I believed could have happened. And from what I've been told, senior government officials may be removed from office, may be fired. I don't know how far this will go.
I think that this will not end just with firings. I believe there are people who will go to jail. I was very persuaded by the evidence, and it also became clear to me why Chuck Grassley and Lindsey Graham felt it so important to refer this matter for criminal prosecution.
How soon will we be able to get our eyes on these documents?
Great question, Sean. Here's the process. Chairman Nunes in the Intelligence Committee in the House, he can bring the committee back together. They can have a vote. If a majority of the committee votes to release these documents, the executive branch gets a certain amount of time to review them. If the executive branch gives the thumbs up, they go public. So this could happen real quick. Chairman Nunes is committed to getting this information to the public.
Not one Democrat wanted you to see it.
Well, no, they didn't. But I can, after you read it and you see, and if they're playing partisan politics, you can see why they didn't want us to see that, and you can see why they won't want the American people. But as Matt Gaetz said, as Sarah said, this is something that needs to be out. So this should never happen in a country as great as the United States of America. And we need every single American take a look at this and see what exactly their government did, their law enforcement division did.
And Sean, I think it is instructive that the vote to release this was down party lines. The Transparency Party, the Democrats, didn't want it released. Republicans did.
Every single Democrat on the Intelligence Committee voted against even allowing other members of Congress to see this information. So you know they're going to fight against release to the American people. What are the Democrats so afraid of? Why don't they want the American people to know the truth about what was going on with the government, how that impacted the president, his transition, his campaign? And it just seems interesting to me that Democrats don't want us to know what the entire basis was in the first place for the Mueller probe.
One can only wonder why.
When this document goes public, which I believe it will, I do believe it will be the unraveling of the Mueller probe. And I've been hearing that from other sources. And Sean, this was all about in the beginning. Remember, Trump-Russia collusion, Trump-Russia collusion. Now we know from what we've been hearing from the sources, from the congressional members who have seen this memo, that the collusion appears to be between certain members of the FBI and the DOJ and the Hillary Clinton campaign, and that the foundation of this was all based on lies.
Thank goodness for what Devin Nunes and his committee are doing and the push they did on the Justice Department to get these documents in the first place. So, but there is more information. Their investigation is not complete. When it's complete, then you're going to see the Judiciary Committee in the House do even more.
Comey had to know all of this was going on, didn't he?
Well, we can't talk about specifics, who knew what, and what we read today. What we read today, though, was a memo that compiled information that they've got, that they presented to members of Congress to look at. We called for members of Congress to be able to see this material just a few weeks ago. Today, we're calling on all Americans to be able to see this material.
A lot of people are in legal jeopardy right now for their jobs, for crimes that may have been committed. Even people like James Comey, who's already been fired, could still be impeached. What's the purpose of that? It would prevent him from ever holding any government position.
Don't we know that he has other issues, legal issues already?
Oh, he already does, because he's looking at theft of government documents and potentially leaking and conveying to himself classified information, as well as obstruction of justice if for political reasons. And it appears that this is the case. The FBI and Comey and others cleared Hillary Clinton, notwithstanding.
Wouldn't that be obstruction? Why wouldn't that be obstruction of justice?
It is obstruction of justice. It's exactly obstruction of justice.
But they also did it to let her stay in the race.
Right.
And then you have this whole other group of people that want an insurance policy in case he wins.
Right.
It's shocking. It's a bombshell. It suggests that the entire investigation was bogus from the start, that apparently this fake dossier that the Democrats paid for, they took that to the FISA court, and the FISA court executed warrants, which then allowed them to survey members of the Trump campaign. And you and I would not be having this conversation, and Trump would not have been spending 10 months of his administration fending this stuff off.
You have a primary fixed. You have the email server. We know felonies were committed. It's incontrovertible, no ambiguity.
Right.
All right, so that's a fix-in by Comey and Strzok for Hillary. This dossier was designed to manipulate, lie to, and use Russian lies paid for by Hillary to rig that election.
And it was probably used in advance of the election so that it would be leaked and harm Donald Trump so that he wouldn't win. I mean, think about the consequences of that. The FBI and the Department of Justice trying to do something so underhanded, illegal, and nefarious, and abusing their power to try to alter the election and then thereafter continue on with a fictitious collusion investigation into Donald Trump to try to remove him from office.
In this case, we've got literally the powerful tools of intelligence weaponized, and FISA warrants weaponized against one candidate, an opposition candidate, with lies from the other candidate that she paid for. And then it goes further to get the warrant, and then beyond that.
It's tragic. We look to top officials of the Department of Justice and the FBI to not only uphold the law, but to ensure democracy. It appears that those two agencies did everything to reverse that, and it's sad and tragic.